वेलकम फ्रेंड्स टू लिटरेचर मंत्रा। आई एम हर्ष सिंह और आज का टॉपिक ऑफ डिस्कशन है 100 मोस्ट एक्सपेक्टेड MCQs फॉर JNU's MA इंग्लिश एंट्रेंस एग्जाम। इस वीडियो में मैंने जो MCQs इंक्लूड किए हैं दे रेंज फ्रॉम चॉसर्स एज टू द मॉडर्न एज, फ्रॉम लिटरेरी थ्योरी टू इम्पॉर्टेंट आर्ट एंड लिटरेरी मूवमेंट्स। सो अगर आप अपने प्रिपरेशन को फाइन ट्यून करना चाहते हैं बिफोर द एग्जाम देन डू वॉच दिस वीडियो। इस वीडियो को मैंने 5 पार्ट्स में डिवाइड किया है। प्रैक्टिस टेस्ट 1 जो कि ये वाला है और बाकी 4 जिनका लिंक नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन में दिया हुआ है। नए अपडेट्स के लिए आप हमें फॉलो कर सकते हैं फेसबुक पर या इंस्टाग्राम पर या यूट्यूब पर। और लिटरेचर मंत्रा के साथ जुड़ना ना भूलें, भारत का एकमात्र फ्री ऑनलाइन प्रिपरेशन प्लेटफॉर्म UGC-NET के लिए और इंग्लिश लिटरेचर से जुड़े हुए सभी एग्जाम्स के लिए। Which statement or statements below on the Spencerian stanza is/are correct? 1. A quatrain unrhymed but alliterative. 2. A stanza of 4 lines in iambic pentameter. 3. An 8-line stanza in iambic pentameter followed by a 9th in 6 iambic feet. 4th, an 8-line stanza with 6 iambic feet followed by a 9th in iambic pentameter. Now what is a Spencerian stanza? Basically it consists of 9 lines. Okay, first 8 lines जो हैं they are in iambic pentameter और जो 9th line है मतलब last line जो है वो Alexandrine कहते हैं उसे, means 6 iambic feet उसमें होते हैं, so उसे Alexandrine कहते हैं, the 9th line. And this was invented by Edmund Spenser in his poem The Fairy Queen. That is why it is called a Spencerian stanza. Okay, so here the correct answer is C, number 3. An 8-line stanza in iambic pentameter followed by a 9th in 6 iambic feet. Next question. Laura Mulvey's pioneering essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema is an instance of the feminist appropriation of psychoanalysis. It particularly uses A. Freud's concept of sublimation, B. Jung's concept of collective unconscious, C. Lacan's concept of the gaze, and D. Lacan's notion of the fragmented body. Now इसका आंसर है C. Lacan's concept of the gaze. See, Laura Mulvey is a feminist film theorist. So she applies the concepts of feminism to cinema. And in this essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, what she broadly says is that the fascination for films is based on patriarchal unconscious. And this patriarchal unconscious derives pleasure from scopophilia. Okay, she uses the term scopophilia. Now, what is scopophilia? Scopophilia is like voyeurism. Okay, you understand what voyeurism means, right? And she talks about the male gaze, that males derive pleasure due to this scopophilia, particularly when they see women on cinema or in cinema. Okay, so this is broadly the idea of this essay, Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema. But for this question the answer is C, Lacan's concept of the gaze. Now next question, from which of the theoretical paradigms listed below does the preceding statement derive? So ये एक statement है and then we have the options. So let's read the statement first. The panopticon is a machine for dissociating the sea being seen dyad. In the peripheric ring one is totally seen without ever seeing. In the central tower one sees everything without ever being seen. A. Laura Mulvey's notion of visual pleasure in the cinema. B. Jacques Lacan's idea of mirror stage. C. Michel Foucault's theory of discipline. D. Jacques Derrida's conception of spacing. इसका करेक्ट आंसर है C, Michel Foucault's theory of discipline. But before moving on, I want to explain what panopticon means. So I hope you all know what panopticon is. और दूसरी चीज़ ये कि what is the purpose of this question. मतलब there are 2 broad reasons why this question has been asked. One, to check your vocabulary, whether you know what panopticon means or not. ठीक है, अगर आपको पता नहीं है कि panopticon होता क्या है तो शायद आप कर ही ना पाओ इस चीज़ को. Second, to check your knowledge of literary theory. See, as far as Foucault is concerned, Foucault in his work called Discipline and Punish used the panopticon as a metaphor. Okay, as a metaphor for the way modern societies discipline its members. Okay, it was used as a metaphor. But even before Foucault, Jeremy Bentham in the 18th century had proposed this idea of the panopticon. Basically panopticon होता क्या है? It is a central tower in a prison like structure. Okay, जैसे कोई स्टेडियम होता है या क्रिकेट ग्राउंड होता है एंड सपोज क्रिकेट ग्राउंड में आपने एक बीच में टावर फिट कर दिया जहाँ पे गार्ड रहेगा, एंड ऑल अराउंड इंस्टेड ऑफ द स्पेक्टेटर्स वहाँ पे प्रिजनर्स का सेल्स है, प्रिजनर के सेल रहते हैं, वहाँ पे सारे प्रिजनर्स रखे जाएंगे. सो उस चीज़ को पेनॉप्टिकन कहते हैं, बिकॉज फ्रॉम दिस सेंट्रल टावर द गार्ड और द हुएवर इज इन चार्ज देयर will be able to observe all of those people, all of these prisoners, but the prisoners can't see inside the tower. Okay, so it's a kind of disciplining method. This was originally proposed by Jeremy Bentham in the 18th century, but later on in 1975 even Foucault used this as a metaphor in his work Discipline and Punish. Okay, next question. Which of the following statements cannot be subsumed under the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? A. Each language presents us with its own categorization of the universe. B. Language is a guide to social reality. C. One adjusts to reality essentially without the use of language. D. A language and the society that uses it interlock. And ये Sapir-Whorf hypothesis क्या है? I'm sure आपने पढ़ा ही होगा पहले, but just as a quick recap, basically this hypothesis says that language conditions our understanding of reality. Okay, whatever we understand in reality or pertaining to culture, anything, it is because of language. So अगर आप options को देखें तो first option, each language presents us with its own categorization of the universe. Yes, it is right. Language is a guide to social reality. Yes, according to this theory or hypothesis. Then C, one adjusts to reality essentially without the use of language. ये तो opposite ही है, completely contradictory. तो this is wrong. And इसमें कह रहा है कि which of the following statements cannot be subsumed. So this is the answer, number C. और last option है a language and society that uses it interlock. This is also correct. Okay. So here the answer is C. Next question. The term magic realism was first introduced by A. Hannah Arendt, B. Franz Roh, C. Jean Arp, D. Peter Behrens. यहाँ पे correct answer है B. Franz Roh. Franz Roh was the one who actually introduced this term. और कई बार ये भी होता है कि Franz Roh will not be in the option. एक और बहुत बार नाम यूज़ होता है Alizo Carpentier. Okay, he was a Cuban novelist. So sometimes in some places you will see that this magic realism was started by Alizo Carpentier. In some places it is written that it was actually Franz Roh. But Alizo Carpentier first used this in the 1940s. Okay, but the initial or the beginning was made by Franz Roh. So the correct answer is this one. और यहाँ पे Alizo Carpentier तो है नहीं, so ऐसा कोई confusion भी नहीं है यहाँ पे तो. Okay. Now we have poem, and the poem is titled "It's Your Own Fault," and then the poem is there, and I'll just discuss the answers. Okay, you can read the poem. Now question: the poem is cast in the form of now A, B, C, D. Now इसका correct answer है dramatic monologue. Okay. Then next question: what is the fault to which the speaker refers here? A, B, C, D. Now D is the correct answer. Reading meanings into words. Okay. Then next question: no wonder then. मतलब within quotes, no wonder then. Explain. Now what is the meaning of this basically? Now A option है no wonder that the words here begin to mean. Then B, no wonder that you now find the words menacing. C, no wonder that the words find you menacing. And D, no wonder the words still mean and are tame. Now इसका correct answer है B, no wonder that you now find the words menacing. Well ये वाला poem तो बहुत straight forward है. I don't think आपको कोई भी दिक्कत हुई होगी इसको करने में. Next question is, who is the author of the dialogic imagination? Then problems of Dostoevsky's Poetics and Rabelais and his world. A. Mikhail Bakhtin, A. B. Roland Barthes, C. Jean-Francois Lyotard, D. Michel Foucault. Now इसका correct answer है Mikhail Bakhtin. Okay, these are some important works of Bakhtin, so you should know about these works. Okay, next question is, Kafka's trial has all the following characteristics except A. Vivid yet surreal, B. Dystopian, C. The use of historical details of setting, D. The depiction of totalitarian society. See, ये बहुत ही स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन है. इट इज़ फैक्चुअल. ओके, सो अगर आपने पढ़ा हुआ है काफकाज ट्रायल देन यू कैन ईजिली डू दिस. और इसका करेक्ट आंसर है सी, बिकॉज दिस इज़ नॉट ट्रू. सी इज़ नॉट ट्रू एंड दैट इज़ व्हाट द क्वेश्चन इज आस्किंग. The rest of the options, vivid yet surreal, dystopian, and D जो option है, the depiction of totalitarian society is absolutely correct. This is what Kafka's trial is about. But C, ये जो C option है, this is wrong, and that is what the question is asking you. Okay. Next question. Indicate which of the following terms correctly completes the statement. The first term, new criticism, then reception theory, C, deconstruction, D, structuralism. Now let's read the passage. This form of criticism was in part a movement away from seeing the work as a closed entity, equipped with definite meanings, toward seeing it as irreducibly plural, an endless play of signifiers which can never finally be nailed down to a single center, essence, or meaning. Rather than carve up a text into binary oppositions, Dash tries to show how such oppositions, in order to hold themselves in place, are sometimes betrayed into inverting or collapsing themselves. The niggling and self-contradictory details, once banished to the text's margins, return to plague the critic. इसका correct answer है C, deconstruction. Okay. Next question. In Marxist criticism, the term interpellation means A, the ways in which the ideological structure in social formation is constructed out of material practices. B, the ways in which the ideological structure in social formation is constructed out of discursive practices. C, the ways in which the subjects of an ideology are placed in false positions of knowledge regarding themselves. And D, the ways in which the subjects of an ideology resist false positions of knowledge regarding others. The correct answer here is C. Okay, so ये तो बहुत ही सिंपल सा है. I'm sure आप सबको पता ही होगा ये, because this is what interpellation means, that the subjects are placed in false positions of knowledge regarding themselves. Okay. Next question is, which of the following statements is not true of Kazuo Ishiguro's Remains of the Day? The novel A uses a butler as a pivotal character. B uses the classic English detective story form. C refers to England in the 1930s. And D became a very successful film. See, I have given this question because Kazuo Ishiguro is a very famous author, okay, and this particular novel of his, The Remains of the Day, has also won the Booker Prize. So this is what makes this novel important. And broadly speaking, this question is factual, and the correct answer here is B. It uses the classic English detective story form. और अगर आप ध्यान से देखें तो the question is saying which of the following statements is not true. So B option is not true. Okay, so this is the answer. The rest are true. Next question. Arrange the following in chronological order. 1. The death of Shakespeare. 2. Accession of James I to the English throne. C. Caxton and the printing press. 4. Norman conquest of England. Now इसमें ये combinations दिए हुए हैं, but the correct answer is A. So the Norman conquest of England came first. Okay. Then came Caxton and the printing press. Then second, accession of James I to the English throne, and last is death of Shakespeare. See, Shakespeare died in 1616. This is the estimated date or year in which Shakespeare died. Okay, 1616. And before that, James I ascended the throne of England. This was in 1603. And these other things, Caxton or ये normal these were much earlier. Okay. Next question. Who among the following English playwrights scripted the film Shakespeare in Love? A. Harold Pinter. B. Alan Bennett. C. Carroll Churchill. D. Tom Stoppard. Now here the correct answer is D. Tom Stoppard. Now one thing more I want to tell you about Tom Stoppard. Tom Stoppard is a important writer in the post World War II era. मतलब जब हम लोग डिस्कस करते हैं पोस्ट मॉडर्न लिटरेचर, तो इन पोस्ट मॉडर्न लिटरेचर Tom Stoppard is a very important writer, and along with this Shakespeare in Love, there is also another play of his called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. This is a very very important play. So थोड़ा बहुत इसके बारे में आप पढ़ के जाना. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. इस प्ले के बारे में बहुत बार पूछा जाता है. So let's move on. Next question. Select the matching pair. A is Surrealism, Tristan Tzara. B. Imagism, Spender. C. Naturalism, Yeats. D. Magic Realism, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So इन चारों ऑप्शन में बस एक ही ऑप्शन सही है, D. Magic Realism, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. See, इसमें कोई भी ऑप्शन जो है इसमें फाउंडर का नाम नहीं दिया हुआ है. इवन मैजिक रियलिज्म वाज नॉट फाउंडेड बाय और वाज नॉट कॉइन्ड बाय गैब्रियल गार्सिया मार्केज. But Gabriel Garcia Marquez is one of the biggest practitioners of this mode of writing, magic realism. Okay, magic realism was proposed by or coined by Franz Roh. So he is the one who actually coined this idea or this term. But Gabriel Marquez is one of the biggest practitioners of magic realism. Okay, next question. Which of the following sets would you call the poets of the movement? A. Elizabeth Jennings, Philip Larkin, John Wayne. B. W.H. Auden, Cecil Day Lewis, Stephen Spender. C. T.S. Eliot, Richard Aldington, Ezra Pound. D. Alan Brownjohn, C.H. Sisson, then Anthony Thwaite. Now इसका correct answer है A. Elizabeth Jennings, Philip Larkin and John Wayne. And some more information about the movement. See, the movement started in the 1950s. Okay, and this was a phrase used to describe a group of poets or writers. For example, Philip Larkin, Kingsley Amis, Elizabeth Jennings, Tom Gunn, John Wayne, and the very important DJ Enright and Robert Conquest. And what these poets did was they rejected modernism in its extreme form. And you know, they also rejected a lot of experimentation, and they also rejected too much emphasis on romanticism. So this is what they rejected in extreme forms, and their purpose was to emphasize English identity or Englishness of poetry. And during the 1950s, Britain was changing a lot from being rural to totally becoming urban, totally. So this is something which these poets did not like. Okay, that's why they emphasized a kind of nostalgia in their poems. Nostalgia for earlier Britain, for the earlier Britain, the Britain which existed earlier. And there are two important works which are related to this movement. Okay, one is by DJ Enright, and his work is called Poets of the 1950s. And then Robert Conquest's work is called New Lines. Okay, just remember these two, Poets of the 1950s, and Robert Conquest's work is New Lines. So as I said, iska answer hai A. Elizabeth Jennings, Philip Larkin, John Wayne. Okay, next question. Surrealism is associated with A. Ernst Cassirer, B. Tristan Tzara, C. Henrik Ibsen, D. Andre Breton. The correct answer is Andre Breton. Okay. And Andre Breton is the one who actually published the Surrealist Manifesto in 1924. So this surrealism is always associated with Andre Breton, as he was the main advocate of this idea. Now next question is, the grey-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and flecked darkness like a drunkard, reels from fourth day's path and Titan's burning wheels. Now it is given that it is from Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so question ये है कि the speaker describes A. the setting sun, B. the return home of a drunkard, C. the drawing of a new day, and D. the rising sun. Well, it is a very straightforward question, और इसका आंसर है D. the rising sun. Next question, which of the following is not true of post-structuralism? A option, it seeks to undermine the idea that meaning pre-exists its linguistic expression. Okay. B, there can be no meaning which is not formulated, and no language formulation reaches anywhere beyond language. And C, there is no a textual origin of a text. And D, every sign refers to every other sign adequately. So इसमें क्वेश्चन है which of the following is not true. तो इसमें एक ही ऑप्शन है which is not true, and that is D, that every sign refers to every other sign adequately. ये जो वर्ड है adequately, यहीं पे आपको alarm bells should ring in your head that this adequately, ये adequately गलत है. Next question is, count no man happy until he dies, free of pain at last, is the last line of A. Oedipus at Colonus, B. Agamemnon, C. Oedipus the king, D. Orestes. So ये बहुत ही famous line है, and the correct answer is C. Oedipus the king. With this, I conclude this video, and don't forget to see the next part. It will help you in your MA entrance exam. और next part का link नीचे दिया हुआ है description में. Okay.